Hi, my name is Derek Johnson. I'm a product manager for SAP Analytics Cloud. In this session, we're going to be talking about ad hoc planning and version management. First thing I'd like to focus on is data entry. And we're going to have a number of exercises as part of this Open SAP course where you're going to be asked to do some updates. So feel free to kind of extend what you're doing by trying different approaches, such as adding a plus and minus a percent, plus and minus values. We can also enter in keywords like 100M for 100 million. If we'd like to, you can also enter in values at parent nodes as well as child nodes as well, and see how the system disaggregates or aggregates your data accordingly. So have fun. I would encourage you to really take some time and extend what you're doing beyond the basic exercise and explore the system by just simply testing out some different data entry strategies here as well. One of the things that's changed in the last few months is the addition of the new planning panel. So what we've done is we've replaced the assign, distribute, and spreading functions that we previously had. They were not really well understood by a lot of our planning users, and this has now been replaced by the planning panel. And this is a much more intuitive way to make complex changes from a planning perspective in a way that's very intuitive for a planner. And we're going to be looking at this as well. And there's a lot of capabilities in terms of how we can select our sources, our targets, and our update methods that will likely extend beyond all of our exercises. So I would encourage you to run through the exercises on the planning panel, but feel free to take some time and explore that as well. One of the things that's very useful if you are exploring is to be able to compare different versions. So I know that when I am just exploring the system, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll create a private version, and then I'll be making my planning changes just to test how the changes will work with the data. And using the planning or the table calculations, we can go right in here and we can create some simple variance calculations to be able to better understand the changes that we've made. And I would encourage you to do that as well. But know that there's other table functions that we can use, and you should consider exploring as well. And the options really depend on how many columns in this case are selected. If 2 columns are selected, you'll have a certain set of options. If you have more than 2 columns, you'll have additional options that are possible as well. So feel free, take some time, explore these capabilities as well, and we can extend our learning well beyond our exercises. I'd really like to take some time and focus on version management. So from an ad hoc planning perspective, this is really one of the key areas. So we have 2 basic types of versions. We have a public version and then a private version. A public version is available to anyone that has access to the model and version and that slice of data. And we have the private version, which is only available to the planner who created it. So it's like a personal sandbox. Now the nice thing is with private versions is that we can choose to share them with our colleagues as well. So just know that if you're thinking about private versions, the 2 basic use cases in this case are just for your personal exploration and planning activities, and you can do scenario planning in a private version as well, but you can also share them with colleagues as well if you're working on more complex scenarios or troubleshooting some business issue. And really you can now, if you do create private versions, and we'll be doing this plenty of times through our exercises, we can always convert those into a public version as needed and through the publishing process. And we'll be taking a look at that throughout the exercises. Now I know this session is on ad hoc planning, so I'd like to just take a minute to also discuss the version management and the history function. So from a public version, if you decide to make some updates that are extending beyond what's in the exercise, that's okay. If you need to revert that back, you simply have to go into the version management history, and then we can step back through those functions to go back to a previous change. So for a public version, that works well until we publish the version, in which case that's the last step we can go back to. And private versions, we have a longer history list to which to revert back our changes. So feel free to explore the system and really any way possible just to get a better understanding of how our planning solution works, and know that you can always go into version management and the history function and start to undo some of your changes as well. So have fun and really take advantage of your time of going through the exercises to really understand what our capabilities are. The last thing I just wanted to make note is just that as an administrator, if you need to delete all your private versions that you have for a model, it's very easy. You can do that through the model preferences here as well. So this is available for you as a user that's managing your activities, but also it's available as a system-wide capability as well, and can be useful for managing private versions in large complex environments. With that, I'd like to go to the demo, and we're going to focus on our version management, because I think that's the piece that's often neglected in our exercises, and I think it's very powerful in terms of being able to kind of revert back to state. So if you are playing around and having fun exploring your system, you can always revert back your plan to a specific state that matches the exercise. With that, let's go to the demo.
So in this session, we're going to be looking at how to do some basic ad hoc planning within SAP Analytics Cloud. And you'll have an exercise that goes through a lot of the same core concepts we're going to be discussing here, and it'll go through them in greater detail. So the big thing I want to demonstrate as part of this demo here is how to use version management. Inevitably, you'll be going through an exercise and you realize you've entered the wrong value, or something just doesn't look right, and you want to undo the step that you've taken as part of your planning activity. So we're going to show you how to take advantage of version management to undo some of those changes. And as part of that, we're going to cover how to make changes to plan values directly in a table. Then we'll cover the planning panel as well, and how we can do some of the updates there. And we'll look at how we can use version management if we ever want to revert any of the changes that we've made. Over here, we see our sales forecast. Maybe we want to use the new planning panel. We can do that here as well. Let's just say we want to distribute our values for our crews for Q4, and maybe we want to distribute that value to the other members at the same level. So we're just going to make some changes here just to keep this pretty straightforward. We'll do it by input weight just to make this simple. We'll do 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we get our relative weights. We have our value we're distributing. We see that we're going to be appending this value versus overwriting it. So if we overwrote that value, the total would be, in this case, the 37 million. We're going to choose to append it just so it adds to the existing values here. So we can just select the apply. And here you can see that the value has now been redistributed from the cruise line to the other lines here as well. And if we want to make some additional changes, easy enough to do as well. So we're going to just do plus 10%. As mentioned, we can do plus, minus by percentage. We could also enter the value directly in here as well. If we wanted to add, let's say 30 million, we could do that. If we wanted to use, put things in thousands, we could enter 30K. Likewise, if something was in the billions, we could have done 30, in this case B, it would have been 30 billion. So we're just working in millions here, which would be 30M, but we just take the default when it shows up, which includes the millions in there. So let's just say we've done a number of these planning changes, and we'd like to undo some of the changes that we've made. And perhaps it's just that we've keyed in the number very poorly, and we kind of like to reset things. So we can do that through version management. And so here's our public and our private versions. And here we're just going to go into the menu, and we can take a look at the changes that we've made. So you can see that it gives a list of some of the changes that we've made as part of our planning process, and we can just kind of step through these these changes and kind of revert some of them as we'd like. And we're just going to do that now. So you see, as we do this, the values will show up in yellow just to kind of indicate where things are changing in terms of our value. We could have also just reverted back to the starting place. We select revert. It's just going to let us know that it's going to take us back to the last time we published it. And you can see this is really our starting point here for this version. So the same thing works for private versions as well, and we'll take a look at that. Here you have the undo and you have the history. You could step through these changes here as well in a very similar fashion. So if you are exploring planning and you're worried that your version of the values will start to differ significantly than what's shown in the exercise, or you'd like to try some different scenarios, really I encourage you to do so. And have fun. If you would like to revert those changes back, you can easily do that with our version management. While we're here, some other additional things you can do is if you would like to, if you've created any additional table formulas, those are easily visible. You just have to select the formula here. In hindsight, to review the definition, you'll have your formula showing up in the menu. So by selecting that, we'll have this menu bar, and we can look at the definition here as well. So if you're creating additional formulas, table calculations, and you'd like to review the definition, you can do that at any time. And sometimes that's useful a day or two after you create it. Maybe you want to take a look at how the math is working out, or maybe you'd like to change the math. You just simply select the cell in the column here in the header, and then enable that, and then enable the formula bar, and then you can see that. And you'll see that like B2, C2, D2, and E2. In this case, we have the B's just refer to the line here. So we essentially have A, and then we're going B, C, D, and E. So when we sum this up, it'll be the first 3 quarters of actuals and the last quarter for our forecast. So with this, I would say have fun and explore the exercises that are provided, but feel free to do some self-exploration as well. That's part of the process of learning. And really, I encourage you to have fun. Thank you.